For the record, Jake and I don't regularly come in front of small groups, groups like a local student chapter, to have discussions like this. So this is a little more intimate than what we're used to, so to speak. Very informal. There is no real flow per se, even though one of our marketing team did provide us some good notes of things to cover. But you all are more than welcome to interrupt along the conversation, because it's really what it is. It's just a conversation about who we are, what we do. In essence, CORECHEM is a wholesale chemical distribution company. We take a lot of the products that we learned about in the lab, learned about in the classroom, talked about theoretically. We take them and we market them. We actually will sell products that are made by most of the primary chemical distribution or primary chemical companies like Axo Nobel, Dow, DuPont, Shell, Citgo, Exxon, Eastman up in Kingsport. We function as a distributor for those companies and others. We may not have direct distribution agreements with all of those companies, but that would kind of designed to give you guys a good idea of what kind of products that we sell. Before I go into a little bit more about our business, I will share that my name's John Rippetoe. That is legitimately my last name. I am a biochemist. I have worked in the chemical distribution business for right at 28, 29 years. The vast majority of my working career as a sales and marketing professional has been with CORECHEM here in Knoxville. I worked for a brief stint for an international company down in Atlanta after I graduated from Carson Newman more years ago than I would care to mention. And then moved into the Tri-Cities for a while as a selling branch manager, and subsequently came down to Knoxville to enjoy working for CORECHEM. I help manage one of our business verticals, and with that said, I'll pass it over to Jake.
I'm Jake Ward. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for having us here today. Like John said, this is a little bit different for us, but a little background about what I do is I am a chemical manufacturing lab technician too. It's a lot of words right there, but real simple is I'm a lab tech in simple terms, but what I'm a lab tech in is chemical manufacturing. And so I'm not just a full-time lab tech, I'm also a student here at UT. I got my associates at Pellissippi in science, and then that allowed me to get my foot in the door with a chemical manufacturing company such as CORECHEM, who has given me the opportunity. And then I'm also part-time right now. I'm in environmental soil science, seeking biosystems engineering here at UT. So I'm doing that part-time currently. A little bit about me. I love what I do. I'm blessed to have CORECHEM give me the opportunity to work as a lab tech for them. And it's a great honor to have people like John Rippetoe, who has 28 years of experience in this field, give me his experience every day. One thing I very much so value as a student is gaining experience from higher ups, and that's a piece of advice I can give to everyone here. The more experience you can get early on, the better you will do. And so that's just a quick background for me. I'll hand it back to John Rippetoe and let him give a little bit more.
Thanks, Jake. I'm humbled by your comments. We've never had one of these before, but that being said, as Jake mentioned, I do have 28 years experience in the business. CORECHEM itself is a multifaceted chemical distribution and compounding company. As a distributor, we will purchase larger quantities of, let's say, organics. I'm sure a student or two have had organic chemistry here. Alcohols, esters, ketones, amines, glycols, glycol ethers, the things that we love to hate with SN1, SN2, E1, E2 reactions. I see a lot of head shaking and smiles. Some of them are going, no, I don't want that. We will bring those in from any number of primary chemical manufacturers. We'll bring them in and we'll package them down into smaller quantities. That's really what a distributor does. We function as a vital link between chemical producers and people who can legally buy those chemical products. Legally buy, because there are some out there that would like to purchase chemical products for nefarious intent. We do not sell those for those applications. But in addition to bringing products in, breaking them down into smaller packages, we will also compound products. I tell customers often, those that don't work with us, it's very similar to making cookie dough recipes. We don't make the finished cookies, but we might make the cookie dough by blending the salt and the flour, the egg yolks, and flavoring, and we will blend up finished products and sell them to market because they are needed in one of hundreds of applications. Jake does a wonderful job working with our QA and compliance manager. Becca Huss is here as well. She was last minute attendee for us. But Jake does a wonderful job ensuring that everything that we put out meets or exceeds the metrics that we've established for minimum quality standards for the material. We have the opportunity, working as a distributor of chemical products, to work with chemical engineers in a variety of capacities in just about every industry we cover. We work in pulp and paper, paints and coatings, water, wastewater, environmental remediation, primary chemical manufacturing, automotive, aerospace, food, beverage, pharma, the generic market known as antifreeze, which we tend to refer to as heat transfer fluids. We work in ag. Did I say water and wastewater?
Lots of water and wastewater as well, lots of that.
But if you just listen to some of those industries that I mentioned, we've got high quality components to a lot of those industries. The automotive, the aerospace industry, we lead the world in quality metrics in those industries. We want to put out food safe products, stuff that meets or exceeds the FDA's or the NSF's guidelines for water or human consumption. There are a few food manufacturers here within about 40 miles of Knoxville. We are blessed to have opportunities to work with them, and they expect us to provide food grade raw materials for their consumption. And in the process of working with those manufacturers, we get an opportunity to work with chemical engineers in a variety of settings. Jake enjoys working with some of them in a lab QA setting. I end up, by my department, I get to work with chemical engineers in a purchasing professional role. A lot of people may not ever envision going to work as a purchasing professional after having received a training as a chemical engineer, but I work with a ton of engineers who are professional buyers for organizations all around the world. We have some that work as process engineers, QA, supply chain. Trying to think, Becca, you think of any others at other departments? They cover the full gamut. Finance. A lot of people that I work with, we ask questions a lot, and that's the one thing that I love working with engineers, because engineers generally have problem-solving mindsets. Engineers that I work with historically have never failed to ask questions. Why? What? What about this? Have you thought about that? And the engineers that we are blessed to work with in any industry generally are at the forefront of seeking to solve the problems that their current employer, future employer, previous employer have presented to them. So we work with those engineers to try to assess through chemical distribution, try to assist in answering those problems, if that makes any sense. Just to give you some background on the company, we have been in business in Knoxville for about 43 years. We are a family-owned, family-managed business. We are an international company. We sell products all over the world. Some of the products that we provide are very freight sensitive, so the distribution radius where we can be competitive is a little bit more close to home. As college students, you may not yet be keenly aware of supply chain and logistics costs for just about everything that you consume. There at some point when you graduate and you start paying for more of what you are consuming, be it food, automobiles, clothing, activities with your friends, you'll become keenly aware of cost. And we work with supply chain engineers to try to help manage cost. And some of the things that we do, you can't do beyond Chattanooga and be competitive. Others we can do on the other side of the world and sell to Singapore and still be competitive. So, I don't know. That's, Jake, if you want to take it over from here, can you help break it down, I guess, from a real world application in the lab?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the reasons I'm here today is to give you guys a little bit of background of what it's like to be in the workforce as a student and freshly graduated. I'm not graduated yet, but I did get my associate's in science, and then I'm still seeking biosystems engineering currently. However, I work full-time. I work full-time for CORECHEM. I work 32 to 35 hours a week. With that, it can be challenging, but I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a background of what you can expect if you are going the lab route of things. So a little bit of my daily work schedule would be, come in. I don't know if you guys have done calibrations yet in lab, but start loving calibrations, right? You're going to calibrate every single morning. Make sure your equipment, you're going to do all of your equipment, right? And so that's just your generic lab tech stuff, right? What I also do is I confirm our batching schedule. And so we are not producing, but we are blending every single day a different chemical formula pretty much. With that, you have a wide set of quality control that comes with it. And so that can be your generic testing such as pH, visual, reserve alkalinity, freeze points, and stuff like that. So every single batch that we do blend and produce, it comes up to the lab. I'll do a quality check on it with a specification sheet to make sure its specs are met. And then at that point, I give a certificate of analysis for it. And so what we call a COA. With that COA, you are putting your name on that work and saying, I tested this. This is guaranteed to go to the customer with quality approved stamp on it. So that's just one aspect of the lab tech side of things. Another aspect that I have been really aligns with my degree and what I love doing is, John kind of mentioned it a second ago, is heat transfer fluids. Have you guys ever heard of heat transfer fluids before, or geothermal energy? And so we are...
I got a kind of sort of head shaking.
The best way to explain it, you guys are Chem E majors, you know all about viscosity and heat transfers and stuff like that. So on these geothermal systems, they have closed loop systems, cold plate systems, all kinds of different systems. But those systems require liquid. And with that liquid, it cools the system. The simplest way to explain it. That's what I truly love doing, as heat transfer fluids with geothermal energy can have a much more greener impact in the industrial world as compared to your traditional energy sources, as you could say. We offer bio-based propylene glycol heat transfer fluids, which is at the forefront of being one of the most green products you can offer in the industrial setting for HTF. And so that is a sector of my job that I'm passionate about. I have the lab tech role, which is also like your basic quality side of things, and then I have the HTF side of things. And then my absolute favorite side is R&D, research and development. I have been absolutely blessed with my experience at CORECHEM to have the opportunity to lead R&D at my age as a student still here at UTK. So throughout my day, I have your basic quality control, my HTF sector, and then my R&D. So that's kind of a quick little summary of what you could expect at a Lab Tech 2 role, or maybe a little bit higher than that. But that's, you got to start somewhere with it, and you got to get that experience. And the quicker you get that experience, the better. It is a competitive field out there, but don't be intimidated by that, right? You don't truly know until you get your foot in the door. An example of why quality control matters is, have you guys ever experienced most of quality control in college or anything like that? I'm assuming not. But every single time you turn in a paper, you are doing quality control on your paper, right? You don't want to turn in that paper and get an F on it because you just want to get it done and get it out the door. Well, quality control, you cannot do that. Quality control is the backbone of a company. Is critical to a company's success as well. So ensuring you have a precise, accurate, and orderly quality control department is critical to the success of a company as well. And so with that, you're also acting as a safety net for the company. And so as a chemical engineering degree, you guys are, you're the brains and you're a safety net as well in the quality control department. So you're making sure everything you are putting your name on is met to that specification, and you are proud of that work when it goes out the door. That's quality control, and it gets a lot more deep than that. Like I said, quality control is the backbone to success of a company and the reputation of a company as well. And so you carry that with you, is you're carrying the reputation of a company as working in quality control. Now, you might think, why is that important? We produce also multiple times a week, 32,000-pound batches. Before that, 32,000 pounds is almost a whole tanker, depending on the product. So you could potentially be sending out a whole semi-tank completely wrong to a customer if you're not checking that product completely. And so that's something that I take pride in my work, is catching those mistakes before they go out the door, making sure that tanker is fully ready to go, sealed, quality, everything like that. And so that's just an example of some of the batch corrections I do on the daily. Like I said, every single thing that comes up gets tested. If it fails for not meeting those specifications, it then goes through a correction process. With that correction process, depends on the product, but you're making chemical equations, you're figuring out the correct concentrations and stuff like that, and you're going to apply those corrections to that product. And so with quality control, you're not just always simply looking at, oh, is this the right label? Is this the right product? Is this the right name? You're also testing the chemical formulation of that product to ensure you're actually selling that chemical, right? And so that's also another, with chemical engineering degree, you have that knowledge and you're going to gain from that knowledge in the workplace, knowing that, hey, this is supposed to be that, this is that chemical equation, this is that concentration, that's that molar, like all that good stuff. Like I said, I have been blessed to work R&D with this company as well. One of the sectors I really like is HTF. Right now I'm leading the R&D project, working on leading the R&D project for the OCP, which is the Open Compute Project, which is founded by Meta, which is Facebook. They are building all these data centers right now. All these AI data centers have to have heat transfer fluids to cool them down, to keep those temperatures stable. And so right now I'm working with a collaborative program nationwide and global-wide called the OCP to work on heat transfer fluids that are approved to go into these multi-million-dollar systems out west, out in Texas, even here. And so that's one of the ones that I'm really proud of with R&D is the OCP project, seeing that it's the potential of good it can do and knowing that I'm putting it in the world as a better environmentally friendly process than what it could be originally back in the day. So you kind of got, as an ESS major, I want the best for the world, right? I want the most clean, everything like that. But the reality of it is, stuff's still going to get made. So if we're going to make it, let's still make it, but let's make it the best clean way possible, right? Let's limit our exposures, our leaching, and everything like that. And that's what I really love in the R&D sector, is being able to limit those things, putting my name on something saying, hey, we are selling the forefront of the cleanest product that you can have for the environment. But R&D isn't just that.
You mind, could I maybe steal the microphone?
Yeah, absolutely.
This may be the first time, it probably won't be the last that I'll ever say this, but I think I am actually the oldest person in the room, by far. I'm 50 years old. I turned 50 back in September. And I was in school more years ago than I would care to mention. But I remember as a young man in college, there were the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska. I've been to Alaska. I've seen the impact of that oil spill. I've seen how the mishandling of chemistry causes problems in our environment firsthand. That leads me to my question. Why are you here as a Chem E major? Does anybody care to share why you've chosen to pursue this course of study? No right or wrong answer. You're not going to be criticized by me or by Jake or hopefully by no one in the room for speaking up.
Let me ask this. What made you guys go to chemical engineering degree? Why did you choose this degree?
You're smiling at me. There's an answer back there somewhere. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Lead the charge. Thank you, Captain.
So in my high school, we had an engineering pathway, so I knew coming out of high school I wanted to do engineering, but I took essentially courses that aligned with mechanical engineering, computer engineering, and civil engineering, and I hated the actual material, but loved the style of the coursework. And chemistry was always my best class in high school, so I thought, okay, what's the best way to combine these two, and that's where I landed on chemical engineering. And I feel like, I'll say this because I feel like someone else is relating to it, I don't fully know where I want to go with the degree, but that's one thing I like about chemical engineering is how many different paths you can take within it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm hoping somebody else will care to share. I will tell you, I remember 30 years ago-ish, as my football career came to an end at Carson Newman. Coach Fulmer said I was too skinny to play for him back then, and I was. But I remember when my football career came to an end and I was graduating, and my dad said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, Dad, I really don't know. You know, I've studied chemistry and biology all my life. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. He pushed me to go to medical school. And I looked at him and said, Dad, I've been broke for 5 years on a football scholarship. I am not going to medical school. I don't want to be broke for 10 more years. So I put a resume together and I went into the business of chemical distribution. And over the last 20 years, I've seen how chemistry, when properly used, can sincerely and truly benefit mankind. And prior to most of your bursts, I've seen how it can really go cattywampus and mess up the environment. That's one thing that Jake and I have in common. There are a lot of people out there for a lot of bigger organizations who will sit there and glad hand you and tell you that they sell chemicals responsibly. They don't. I know for a fact. I've seen it happen. I've worked for some of those billion-dollar global organizations. But what Jake talked about with our heat transfer fluids, if that's where I put it in reverse and then we'll camp a little bit. Does anybody in here know how air conditioning systems work, conventional HVAC, like the regular air conditioning system that might be at your house? Come on, I got some Chem majors in front of me. They got to know some of this stuff. Well, I'll answer. Elizabeth, do you know by chance? It's an HVAC specific heat kinetic energy pathway, but it's, that what'll happen is you'll have a compressor that will compress a gas. And depending upon the charge in the cycle, that gas will be allowed to expand. And as it does, it creates a cooling effect on the vessel in which it's expanding. You blow air over that cool vessel and you're blowing cool air or air conditioned air towards a house, towards a building like this. You run that system in reverse and it'll put heat. It'll pull heat from the atmosphere and put that heat into your home. That's been the primary method for heat transfer over the last, 50 years, 60 years.
Boy,
I think the Vanderbilts over there at Biltmore had some pretty ingenious stuff with gaseous ammonia back in the day. But we work in the heat transfer market. We actually Jake is developing fluids in Knoxville that are at the forefront of reduction in viscosity, a specific heat uptake, so that we can put out an environmentally friendly product, one that to our knowledge is the only one that's USDA recognized as bio-based material. Am I right there, Compliance Chief? We put out a product that functions as, we call it antifreeze, because you all may recognize, who here has a car? Get some class participation. And I'm assuming you drive from place to place. Have you ever had to change the antifreeze in your car or add to it?
When your AC stops working?
Or your engine gets overheated? Well, let me explain that real quick. There's a who for a lot of us for that. It's called Jiffy Lube. But your heat has a radiator. Your car has a radiator on the front of it. This is unrehearsed, people. Your car has a radiator on the front of it. In it, most people have antifreeze. The antifreeze was so named because it was first designed to prevent your engine block from freezing in the wintertime. But what that product does truly in your engine is it transfers heat. There are boreholes that are bored through your engine block to allow this fluid to circulate around your piston cylinders. So as anybody drive EVs? Because you don't have internal combustion engines if you have an EV. But an internal combustion engine, you've got this gasoline or diesel if you're driving a truck, and it expands and it explodes inside your cylinders, so this heat is pushed into this massive engine block. This fluid is circulating around your engine block, and it transfers this heat to the engine coolant, which is also known as an antifreeze. It pushes it up to your radiator, where the fins of your radiator function is like a wind dam. As you drive down the road, the wind comes across the front of your vehicle and it pulls the heat out of the fluid, which allows a cooler fluid to then circulate back into your engine, removing more heat. That's a constant cycle. That's the way it has been done with ethylene glycol for decades. Ethylene glycol, for those of you who may have had an animal, like a dog who licked it when they were younger, it's wonderful at what it does, but it's extremely toxic. Tastes like sugar. He's nodding his head. You might know something about that. It tastes like sugar because it's a glycol, it's sweet, but it's toxic. So it's bad for you, it's bad for the environment. We're producing a product that is bio-based, that is ethylene glycol's kissing cousin, to use a good Tennessee analogy. It's one carbon longer in the chain, methyl, ethyl, propyl. It's propylene glycol. It's biodegradable. It's GRAS, generally regarded as safe. And we have it designed with a company out of the UK. We're licensing their technology here in the States. We're the sole distributor of that material. It lowers viscosity, increases the heat transfer, still bio-based, Still grass, that's a chemical term, generally regarded as safe. I didn't invent it, the government did, sorry. But we're doing that right here, and Jake is working on kinematic viscosities and heat transfer fluid activity and specific gravity and density flows. I'm like, those thermal fluid dynamics, you can handle that, Jake. I'm over here talking to people. that was my backup.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
absolutely. I love the HTF. I know it gets very technical very quickly with all that good stuff right there. Another cool thing about it, though, is we also dye our HTF fluorescent colors. How many of you guys have heard of leaching before? Like pollution, leaching, and stuff like that? Unfortunately, no system's perfect, right? And these systems also leach. They're underground, and they leach. And so the best way to identify where you're putting this potential contamination at is if it basically glows at you, right? And we put our chemicals a fluorescent color every single time, unless the customer asks for it to be clear. We also do custom dyes, custom dilutions and stuff like that for our customers. However, most of them want them to be brightly dyed. So when they do leach, you can limit those environmental hazards as quickly as possible. Even with propylene glycol, it's still better. However, we have what's called inhibitor packages. And those inhibitor packages, how many of you guys know what reserve alkalinity is? Okay, so we're testing how well it's going to hold up in the field to corrosion rates, basically. And when you have these steel systems, whatever it may be, steel likes to rust, right? And so we will kind of get off all that technical stuff. One of the other cooler things I'm working on, it's actually a finished project. You guys know what Cybertrucks are, right? Everybody's seen a Cybertruck by now. Well, it's steel. They rust, steel rust, right? We can get stainless steel, but it still rusts.
Stainless steel still rusts.
Yep, exactly. So one of the projects that I've finished actually is creating a citric acid-based stainless steel passivation chemical, which is more environmentally friendly than the traditional nitric acid stainless steel passivation process. And so that is actually about to go into the market right now. So all of these Cybertrucks aren't red 5 years from now from all the rust. That is a more practical, real-world R&D project I'm working on, but it also relates to how it's more environmentally friendly, and CORECHEM is on the forefront of trying to be more environmentally ethical with our products that we sell and promote as well. And that is where CORECHEM really aligns with my passions and my degrees in the ESS Biosystems degree, is making sure that we are putting stuff out there that is quality controlled, the best product that we can provide, and also environmental friendly if possible. Now don't get me wrong, we still sell industrial chemicals as well. You know, your sulfurics, your sodium hydroxides, all that good stuff. And unfortunately, chemistry is chemistry, and you can't really make that more environmentally friendly than what it already is. But that's my R&D side of things, is helping with the HTF and helping on product development for our industrial side as well. Thank you. Another thing I want to talk about before I wrap up my end real quick is what it's like balancing student life and work life and trying to develop your professional career. It's not easy. It's not. But a lot of people have the mindset when you get out of college, you're going to get your dream job right away. You're going to get those 3 to 4 figures if possible. But what matters more is doing something you care about and doing something that you're learning and gaining experience from and building yourself up from. I used to be in customer service when I first started with this company. But through my hard work and dedication and showing the company that I started with, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm in school for. This is what I can provide to you guys. They have worked with me with my career and allowed me as a student to build and grow and get more opportunities than most students would get with R&D and actual hands-on stuff like that. So that's a huge blessing that I've had. You don't necessarily get your foot in the door right away with those 1,000-employee companies. So no matter what, when you do graduate or if you're looking for your internships like that, don't be afraid to start at the bottom. Don't be afraid to show your worth. Don't be afraid to put in the hard work, because I promise you it is going to benefit you as long as you're doing what you truly enjoy. So that's just kind of what I wanted to say. I know it's hard to lose sight of the finish line when you're focused on finals and stuff like that. Just keep on doing it. And as long as you have your mindset on what you truly want to do, don't be afraid to take a job that might seem out there. Don't be afraid to put your foot somewhere and start fresh when you get out of college, because opportunities can come to those who are willing to work for those opportunities.
At this point, does anybody have any questions? Anything that we've discussed come to mind where you might want to throw a question or two out?
So I know, going back to your cookie dough reference, is that, do you guys do more things like that that are more finished, I guess?
We do. Great question. Thank you for asking it. We do blend certain products for some companies that have already been mentioned, most of which we operate under a non-disclosure agreement. But we do blend the cookie dough type recipes for some companies. We are blessed to call, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 2 dozen Fortune. I know there's more than 2 dozen Fortune 500. We may have a couple of Fortune 100 customers in our customer portfolio, but the product mix that Jake just described is a finished product that is under our brand. It is one of the few that we have developed over the last decade or so, and we market that all over the U.S. We sell it all over the world. It is a product that we believe will be at the forefront of an energy transition. I've been in sales and marketing of chemical products for 27, 28 years. I just realized that I've been doing this possibly longer than most of you have been alive. Lord have mercy. But in my personal opinion, and I don't think it's far-fetched, the world is going to have to transition the energy models of today to the energy models of tomorrow. I am not one who is advocating for cutting our nose off to spite our face, cutting all fossil fuels out of use, because there are a lot of products, and Jake's seen, you've tested almost every single one of them, that we provide that are very useful. If used incorrectly, they can be super harmful, both to life and limb and to the environment. But there must be a transition over the next 2, 5, 10 years that some of you may lead the charge in this room, to where we are generating energy more efficiently and using that energy once generated more efficiently. We have to have a real life cycle mindset on our energy models, because it is unsustainable on the path that we're on right now. You know, I grew up in Johnson City, about an hour and a half northeast of here, up towards Bristol, the Tri-City area. And part of the reason that I loved living here and have moved back here is because Tennessee has been a relatively energy stable environment for most of the last 50 years. The TVA system of hydroelectric dams came about right after the Great Depression. The New Deal brought this energy abundance to the valley, and it filled energy coffers. Tennessee, Alabama, North South Carolina, Georgia, all the way down to south is Florida, Kentucky, Virginia. We were blessed to have energy in spades. That's not the case anymore. We used to work with a company called Matsushita, that is the global parent of Panasonic Electronic Components. They had an advanced multi-stage processing facility here in Knoxville, right off of Straw Plains. If any of you go east about 7 miles, right there off of exit 398 in Strawberry Plains, we call it Straw Plains. But Panasonic had an integrated multi-staged facility. They brought in what in essence is aluminum foil, not the Reynolds wrap that we might put in the oven, but it's very much similar to that. It's a larger foil product. They would, through chemical etching, they would increase the surface area of that otherwise flat foil. You couldn't tell with the human eye. None of us in this room have got keen eyes enough to ascertain what they did, but you break out an SEM, scanning electron microscope, you could see the exponential explosion in the surface area on the film that they processed. They would make the film, sell the film out of Knoxville, turn right around and sell the film to their integrated plant right next door that made capacitors. Capacitors are fancy electronic devices that store and discharge energy. All electronic components have capacitors. They're in your cars, they're in your microwave, they're in your cell phone that all of us are blessed with. Thank the Lord they're on silent, not ringing while we're yapping away. Our computers, our televisions, our displays that are, got our banner, I guess, behind us here, our microphones and our video camera. Panasonic made those capacitors. They made them there in Knoxville, and they sold them to a huge customer base globally, and put them into speakers that were made at the other integrated facility right next door. We did an enormous amount of business with Panasonic more than a decade ago. And I was talking to one of their plant managers, Bobby Glenn, and his subordinate buyer. He said, John, I've got some bad news for you. We're going to go out of, we're shutting down our business. And I'm like, what? We work as a supply chain partner, helping throughout the organization on the supply side, through process engineering, through quality control, compliance with our compliance department. And I was dumbfounded because we had worked with them for years. I used to do a lot of work here with Dr. Schweitzer. I'm not sure if anybody in this room recognizes that name. Dr. Schweitzer for the University of Tennessee. He received the accolade through the Guinness Book of World Records for having become the longest tenured living professor for a university. Guinness awarded him that last year posthumously because Dr. Schweitzer, I was sad to hear he passed away, I think in 22 or 23. He was, I'm not that old, but he was a contemporary of mine. Did a lot of work with Dr. Schweitzer. He consulted on a lot of work with Panasonic. And I was just surprised because we had worked with him for years. And I said, Bobby, what is going on? Bobby looked at me and said, we came here decades ago because of the TVA energy system, one of the most stable, reliable energy platforms in the United States. He said, we're pulling out because that's no longer the case. And I said, I need to know more. I'm data driven. I used to geek out on pi bonds and valence. I'm not so much on that anymore because I don't apply that all the time. I'm sorry. But he's telling me we buy $1.2 to $1.4 million worth of electricity from KUB a year. He said we can't depend on the rates we've been given now because they won't be here in a decade. The Japanese saw what was happening to the U.S. in terms of population growth, and the demand for energy, because that's really what it's about. I mean, truth be told, every single one of us in here, we're dealing with lights and heat because it's cold. We plug our cell phones or our laptops in at nighttime, watch our televisions. We're constantly sucking up energy. And it's changing the face of the way people do business and where they put business, how they think about what they're going to do for the next 20 years. And that's part of why this wasn't even a thing 24 years ago when we started working together. We birthed this idea about a decade ago and said, we can be part of this. It's taken a lot of work to get it to where it is today, but did I ask a question about that? Did I give you an answer? I'm sorry.
I think we're well past
I riffed on that because I'm just seeing things change over time. And like I said, there's a chance that you ladies, you men, there's a chance that one of you in this room, more than one of you in this room, might be at the forefront of some industry change, some change over time that's always occurring that we can't predict while we're here with you today, but you may be a part of tomorrow. How are we freshmen, sophomores? Where are we in terms of grade level as far as in schooling?
I'm a sophomore and transferring into chemical engineering, or at least that's our hope.
Cool. That. I'm an old man, but I can still give you a fist bump. My kids call it giving me knuckles. But other people, do you care to share? Juniors.
Sophomore.
Good deal. So you all in your lifetimes are going to see the pace of change in business, the pace of change in society. It will increase faster than it ever has, simply because we are now dealing with these, where's my phone? This computer right here, they tell me, and I don't know because I don't know how many transistors are on it, but they say there's more computing power now in the palm of our hands than it took to put the Apollo moon lander into orbit. And if you look at what's going on inside the computers, our ability to handle information, to transfer and compress and digest information is growing exponentially at a pace it never has ever grown. Like I always told people when I got in business, like 20 years ago, it took 40 years to ascertain certain cycles. And then 10 years ago, that became 4 years. And 2 years ago, that became 4 months. By the time you're out of school, either just out of undergrad or maybe some postgraduate work, maybe even your doctoral dissertations, the world is going to be changing so fast that those who know how to solve the problems of tomorrow are going to be light years ahead of those who are looking for you to do it. So I would encourage you, if anything, as somebody who's been doing it for 25 years, stay the course, stay curious, keep asking questions. Don't rely on the answers of yesteryear for people to say it can't be done, because I can assure you it can. Elon Musk has proven from a business model, there are things that he's doing that can be done that nobody said we would ever do. you all are going to be that generation that will lead us in the decades ahead. So strive on with might and main.
Just to riff off that, you guys know AI. Everybody in this room knows what AI is or has used it in some capacity, right? In the past 4 years alone,
My sons keep telling me what that is. But no, Dad, it's this way.
the past 4 years alone, it's kind of like the gold rush back in the day, right? AI, all these data centers. I don't know if you've checked the news, but they're building one in Oak Ridge here soon as well. What that has also, being young, what I've realized is that's a market right there, right? And so that was what I was saying earlier with the OCP is Meta, which is Facebook, who's building all these AI computing data centers, need chemicals to run those, right? And so
To improve the heat transfer abilities, because those things not only suck up energy, they generate an immense amount of heat.
right. And so being a student, we are on the, like John said, we are the generation right now that is going to be leading this in the future. And being able to find your place in these ever-changing, because markets will always change, markets, and being able to make yourself useful in those markets is one of the best things you can do professionally. And as a student, is to be looking at the market ahead of time, to know what niche you want to go into, where you can be of value, where you think you will align the best with. Because it's also about aligning best as well with your personal beliefs and morals and stuff like that. So you're happy doing what you're doing, and you're still on the forefront of everything as well. But like John said, everything changes in time. It's just about being in the know, having those networks, having those connections to make sure you are on the forefront, you're not being left behind, basically. But there will always be projects, there will always be opportunities to continue to take humanity to the next level. And I know that's something that, as a UT student, I find pride in, is taking my academic levels and applying it to that to try and help the world for a better as it continues to grow.
We're getting ready to land the plane because I think, Elizabeth, we're fixing to run out of time. But at this point, are there any questions? Are there anything we've said? Has it sparked some curiosity, things you all want to throw out there? Elizabeth, go ahead.
I'll ask you a question more just like for anyone here. I know sophomores, juniors, do you guys offer internships as a company, or is that something like you do? Not speaking just for myself, but for other people.
I'm glad you asked. My eyes scanned right over your head as you were asking because I saw Becca light up as well. It is something that we would like to work with students on. Becca, you care to comment?
Yeah, I think the answer changes some years to other years, I think would be probably the most fair
Yeah.
assessment. But if CORECHEM sounds like a cool company to you guys and you guys wanted an internship, there is zero harm in emailing one of us or our HR contact or picking up, now I sound old, picking up
The
the
phone.
and calling the number for CORECHEM. A real person does in fact answer. It used to be Jake. And letting them know, like, hey, I'm a student at UT. This is my program, and I'm interested if you guys are doing any internships. At the leadership level, we talk about it a lot on whether or not something we can support. And some years the answer is yes, some years the answer is no, because
Fair enough.
it's really dependent on what projects we have going on. But shoot, did you bring business cards?
I did. I'll hand them out.
Old people.
Old school. Yeah, exactly.
But I would say if this sounds like something that you guys would want an internship or potentially a job for in the future, we are a small company. We can handle people emailing or calling and just putting their name out there. Especially if you say something like, I attended the talk that Jake and John gave, then we're like, oh, that's where they got this from. So yeah, I would encourage you guys to reach out if that's something you're interested in. And yeah, sometimes we can support that, and some years we just don't have the project capacity.
Yeah, 100%.
For example, I'm working full-time, 32 to 35 hours a week, and CORECHEM is very flexible with my schedule. They have been very, very understanding of a schedule, which is very hard to find in the workplace, especially in the industrial world side of things, to find a company that has been so lenient with my school schedule. I have been blessed for this opportunity at CORECHEM to allow me to work and go to school at the same time and gain all this experience right here. But even if it's not with CORECHEM, I can't say enough, experience matters. And the sooner you can get an internship, get a job, network. I know UT preaches all the time about networking, networking, networking. It does matter. And I'm always happy to be a source as well for you guys if you ever need to email me or John. We're always happy to talk to you guys about anything you may ask.
I'll leave a business card with you, Elizabeth. My last name again is Rippetoe. My wife had to love me to take that one. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, but I'll leave my business card because I can always connect the dots. If any of the group here would like to talk with us, I can bounce it around. I will end up ultimately directing it to HR, and Gina sits on our leadership team meeting, so we can have a good conversation about it and get somebody on the team will get back to you.
I believe you had a question, right?
Yeah. So I'm just like for me personally, why I'm transferring or why I'm hoping to transfer into chemical engineering is because I'm like interested in like water and also like food and beverage. For water, I was just wondering, a lot of chemical reactions, right? Water, right, is a really big resource for those.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering if like if you're affected because like obviously we have a lot of rivers, we have a lot of sources of water, but like oftentimes those aren't clean. Those aren't like where you want them to be, especially with our rivers are like contaminated, right? Like
Yes, ma'am.
you've seen the news articles and all that.
The sins of our past have come back to haunt us.
Yeah. I was just wondering like when you're like I guess packaging for all of these companies, obviously you have like waste. So like what do you do with that?
Great question.
Where does that go?
Well, we do generate waste. I would have to talk with Becca to confirm. To my knowledge, we are not listed with the EPA as either a small or large quantity generator. We are one-time conditionally exempt when it happens.
I believe we're like a very small, I think we're categorized last year as a very small generator.
Because we are regulated by a wonderfully large volume of government acronyms that Becca gets to handle. The EPA, TDEC, OSHA, TOSHA, the DEA, FBI, NSF, FDA, both the food and the drug side. There's a couple, DOT, there's a couple more. DHS, oh yeah, Lord, can't forget them. But we must comply with the government regulations. I am not going to sit here and bellyache or moan because I believe that a well-regulated market, neither under-regulated nor over-regulated, a well-regulated market is the best for everybody. It keeps people who shouldn't be in business handling chemicals from being in business, and those of us who are in it, we've been in it again 44 years, we have to do it right or we get run out of business pretty fast. We do generate some level of water waste. That water waste is treated on property. We have a section of our building that is dedicated to capturing and then treating all of our wastewater generated on property. If we can't discharge it legally to KUB, it is caught, collected, treated, and then sent off for final treatment. Sometimes that water, I don't want to speak out of turn, am I wrong? It's used for stabilization. It can be treated, neutralized further if we lack the wherewithal to do it in-house.
Actually, currently all of our processed water does get shipped off-site. So we bring in an external company that handles processing used water. And right now, everything goes to them. And so they will, yeah, I guess, John, you would know more at that
Yeah.
point what they do with it.
So you'll know, in case it's a curiosity or a concern, even though we may use an outside contractor for our wastewater treatment, we are legally responsible for that water regardless. It's called cradle to grave responsibility. We birthed it, i.e. the cradle, so until it is properly dealt with and reaches its grave, it is our baby. I personally have audited, not for CORECHEM, but I audited a few of for my previous employer, I audited a few waste treatment facilities, one in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it was a huge organization. It was a multi-day audit because the branch I managed was handling some measure of waste that was being processed at that facility in Cincinnati. And if they didn't do it right, we were on the hook. So I had to go spend 3 days in Cincinnati and go walk through a warehouse, talk about paperwork and flow. So there are proper regulations to take care of that. And if I can, I'll add to what you're saying. Water is probably our single most valuable resource. We don't understand that in the U.S. because we have been blessed with clean water about every single time we turn around. If you travel outside the U.S. at all, you'll find that water scarcity is a big deal. Having a reliable water supply that is free of bacteria and parasites, free of heavy metals contamination, free of silt or debris that might otherwise cause you intestinal distress or other types of problems, it is critically important. We work with the NSF, the National Sanitary Foundation. We are an NSF-approved packaging facility. We only have a certain number. Am I right there? Oh, 5 minutes. You see the window? 5 minutes. We got the clicker. Thank you, Maddie. We work with the NSF to package certain products that they have audited our processes to say that those can go into the water, potable water treatment. There's a number of different water companies around this area. Most of you may not know this. West Knox Utility, First Utility, Knox Chapman Utility, Northeast Knox Utility, Knoxville Utilities Board, Clinton Utilities Board services North Knoxville. These are integrated water facilities that are treating the water that we all consume, that we bathe in, that we might swim in. Products are being sold into that distribution use channel because the government says it must be this clean to go into your body. We need to be thinking globally because that same right that we enjoy as citizens of the United States, as University of Tennessee residents, that right really needs to be expanded to everybody around the world. So we are cognizant of what we are generating and what we are supplying into that stream. It's literally, energy's great to have. Don't get me wrong, I like having my cell phone, but I'm not going to go too far without water. I would like, I guess, to land the plane in the 5-minute window that Maddie said we have with this one thought. I was going to ask a lot of you in here if any of you knew who the first African-American football team member was on UT's football team. Does anybody know that history here? Nobody can win that $30 Starbucks card. His name was Lester McLean. Lester McLean was the first African-American on UT's football team. He came here as a sophomore back in 1967. If you search Google, don't use ChatGPT because it varies every time I ask it to do something for me. If you search Google and ask who Lester McLean's roommate was back in 1968, you'll find that it was another gentleman named John Rippetoe. My dad was scholarshiped to play quarterback here out of Science Hill back in 1968. Well, I think he might have been here in 65. But I think I mentioned to you, Coach Fulmer said I was too skinny because my dad and I and Coach Fulmer sat down and talked a long time ago, back before a lot of y'all were born. And my dad and Lester remained great friends until the Lord called my dad home about 3 years ago. Crossing color lines, racial boundaries. They were part of the desegregation of UT's football team. I know at my dad's funeral, my sisters and I thanked Lester for his friendship with my dad, and I call him Uncle Lester, which always confuses people at restaurants. But I asked him, I said, can you help us understand how your friendship with Dad struck up? And he said, what exactly do you mean? And I said, how did you and Dad become friends? And he looked at my 3 sisters and I and said, your dad was the only person who would take me as his roommate. This was back in 1968, when segregation was still very much a thing. I used to think that was like lots of time before I was a kid. It was in my dad's generation. And I got to see Lester in a new light through that conversation at my dad's funeral, but I came to also understand Lester and my dad established a friendship when they were in college that transcended 50 years of work after they got out of school. When my dad was the Lord was preparing to call my dad home, I called Lester, who lives over in Middle Tennessee, and said, hey, Lester, I need to talk with you. And he said, Little John, because that's what he calls me, obviously. Little John, what's wrong with your dad? And I said, he's fixing to die. I need you to come to Johnson City. And I tell you that not to pour some accolade on my dad. My dad was good in his day. But each one of you is going to grow a network of friends and people with whom you will associate while you're here, whether it's in graduate school, whether it's at your first job, your second job, wherever you go. And I would encourage you to put as much energy into those chemistries as you do to the bonds between hydrogen and oxygen and carbon and nitrogen. Because the chemistry outside of the classroom within your network is as vital a study as the chemistry you're studying while you're here. So Jake and I think I speak for us both. Are we thankful for the opportunity to be here?
Absolutely.
And I will leave my card. Do you have a card with you, Jake?
I forgot to bring them. I typically do, but I'm a
Old
younger
man
person.
with a big bunch of cards. We don't have QR codes yet. We need to bring that up to the leadership team. But or that's one thing that our marketing can do. I'll leave some cards with Elizabeth, and if you all have any questions either now or later, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. Internships, we aren't available for all things and everything. We're not a consulting company, but we like to blaze trails and help those who are coming behind us. So if we can, we'll be happy to extend that grace to y'all. And thanks for letting us come.